Hey friends, Rachel here again, hanging out with you guys for the heat this week. I'm so pumped to be here, hanging out with you guys. Sorry if you're sick of my face. Next week will be someone else, so you don't have to worry about that. But how you going? How are you? How's your week been? If you're watching this, then congratulations. You've made it through your first week back at school for term 2?
Yes.
Term 2. Man, the whole world is up. Like, I have no idea what the day is or the month or... Term 2, you've made it. You've made it to your first week back, term 2. Whether that looked like online school for you or whether your mum was like teaching you at home, which by the way, if your parents are homeschooling you at the moment, be extra nice to them because it's probably driving them a little bit crazy that you and your siblings are just at home all the time. So just be extra nice to your mum and your dad if you're getting homeschooled. I mean, either way, just be nice to your parents. Anyway, congratulations, you've made it, you're back, and we are back this week for the heat. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but during this whole isolation thing, during this whole pandemic, coronavirus time, everyone, if you go on Instagram, if you go on Facebook, everywhere you go on social media, on the internet, everyone is going live. Have you noticed that? Literally, every man and their dog is going live at the moment. Everyone is doing live videos, live streaming. The other day, Nick did a live video with Pastor Bill. If you haven't seen that, watch that back. That was amazing. Nick just loves to throw Pastor Bill under the bus and ask him really hard questions. He literally asked him, who does he like better, me or Nick? Anyway, go check that out. But everyone is doing live videos at the moment. And so this week we have a brand new series for you guys, which we have called Going Live. That is what our new series is called, Going Live, and we're talking about going live with our faith, going public with our faith. That during this time, during this weird, wacky pandemic time where people are freaking out, there's so much fear, there's so much uncertainty, that this is the time for us to go live with our faith. This is the time for us to share the hope and the love and the freedom that we have in Jesus. Share that out, be light bearers to our world and to our community during this time. Going live, our new series dropping right now. Now, the passage I want to share with you guys today is from Matthew 5, verse 14 to 16, where it talks about us being light bearers. It says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." How good is that? I love that picture of us being a light. In a world of darkness, in a world of fear, uncertainty, anxiety at the moment, we can be light bearers. And I love in the Message version of that same passage, it says, God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. We are not called to stay private with our faith. We are called to go public. We are called to go live. And so what does this look like? Being light bearers, going public with our faith, going live with our faith during this weird time where we're literally never leaving our house pretty much unless you're going to school. What does it look like to go public with your faith? Well, I've got a couple points today that I want to talk to you guys about how we can be light bearers, how we can really apply this verse to our lives, be light bearers in our communities, in our families, in our friendship groups at this time. And the first point is that we are not called to blend in, we are called to stand out. We are called to stand out. That this time, this is not the time for us to sit back and to be private. This is not the time for us to blend in and to act like everyone else is acting during this time, to be fearful, to be focusing on ourselves, to be in isolation. Like I said last week, in isolation, it's so easy to just be focusing on your own needs and how you're feeling and what you're thinking, because we're all struggling during this time. It's not easy being in isolation, but we are called to stand out. We are called to actually react to this whole thing in a completely different way. And so I want to make this really practical for you guys. I've got a couple examples of how do we stand out during this time when we're hardly seeing people. How do we stand out? First example is you can stand out through your attitude about this whole thing. You can stand out through the attitude that you bring I don't know about you, but literally every day, at least once a day, I will have some sort of conversation with someone else about the pandemic, or about coronavirus, or about having to stay home, or about this time. We're having conversations about it constantly, all the time, with different people, and the attitude that you bring to those conversations is actually an opportunity for you to stand out from the world. So many people that I've talked to have attitudes of fear and of uncertainty and uneasiness and not knowing what their future is going to look like. And that's the attitude that they bring in, and negativity and hating this time, hating needing to be in isolation. And it's okay if you are struggling, it's okay if you do feel a bit scared from time to time, but the way that we actually perceive this time, the lens that we look at this time through, cannot be a lens of fear. It needs to be a lens and an attitude of victory, of hope, of the grace and the victory that we are standing firmly in, that we know Jesus, that we have citizenship in heaven, that He is our God, that our hope isn't in this world, it's not in the material things that we have, it's in God. So you can stand out through your attitude about this whole thing. We don't need to be depressing, we don't need to be negative. Don't be a negative Nancy about this whole thing. Be positive, be light bearers, be hope bearers, showing that you know Jesus. Second example, what are you posting about? During this time, everyone is on the internet. Everyone is on social media, everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on TikTok. And so what you post about during this time, it actually really matters, because the people in your life, they're not seeing you physically, they're seeing you on social media, most likely. They're seeing more people are going to be looking at what you're posting, more people are going to be looking at what you're sharing. And so this is a time for us to actually be really intentional. This is an opportunity for us to show, actually, you know what? I don't just care about all of these materialistic things that people often post about. I care about Jesus, and I have a faith, and this is what gets me through. This is what gets me through the day, and this is how I have joy in my life, because I know Jesus. And I don't know what that looks like for you. It could be a little thing like, you know, posting in a way that honors God, you know, not swearing or not not posting inappropriate things. That could be your action from this. Or maybe it's as simple as, you know, updating your bio and showing in your bio that, you know what, I love Jesus and I'm not ashamed. Or I'm part of a youth ministry and I think it's awesome because we praise Jesus together and they're my youth family. I don't know what it is for you, but people are watching what you're posting during this time, and what you post and the attitude that you post those things with actually shows where your hope is coming from. It shows where you get your affirmations from. We don't need to just be posting all about ourselves and trying to get likes and trying to get people to like us. We can show that actually, I don't need any of you guys to like me because I've got approval from Jesus and He loves me, and so I'm going to share about Him. What are you posting about during this time? The last example is the way that you love people during this time. I touched on this a little bit last week about thinking of other people before ourselves. The way that you love people during this time, because people so are crying out for love and they're crying out for hope. During this time, the way that you love people is going to help you stand out. I was thinking about this when I was preparing, that there are probably people in your schools who, you know, the people who they might not have many friends, they might be a little bit weird, a little bit quirky, and they could actually have gone the entire school holidays without seeing any of their friends, without seeing anyone, without anybody checking in on them. Think about who those people might be, people who actually didn't have anybody checking in on them in the holidays. How can you love those people? How can you show those people that God sees them and dignify them, show them that God loves them so flipping much? How can you show that love that God has for them? Even if they're smelly, even if they're kind of annoying, even if they're kind of weird, you're called to love them. If you love Jesus, if you've given your heart to Him, your life isn't about you anymore, it's about God. So those are some examples. How can we stand out during this time? And my second point is that we are called not just to stand out, but we are called to speak up. We are called to speak up. A lot of those examples in my last point, they're kind of indirect ways of us showing that we love Jesus or showing Jesus' love to other people. But let's be real. Sometimes you loving someone else isn't going to explicitly show someone who Jesus is. It might show that you have the love of Jesus inside of you. It might show that you that there's something different about you, and it might start a conversation. But if it starts a conversation and you're still too scared to speak up about Jesus, then what's the point? We need to this is the time for us to actually be explicit about our faith in Jesus. Be explicit and be unashamed that, you know what, yes, I love God. Yes, I believe in God. I think He's awesome. I've given my heart and my life to Him, and my life has changed from that moment. And you know why I think this is such a perfect time to do that? Number one, because literally people aren't doing that much. People are really, they're sitting at home, they're on social media, they're hanging out, they're doing Zoom chats. Like, people aren't that busy. And secondly, people are crying out for hope. During this time, people are crying out for hope, for love, for something to stand firmly on, something to stand upon that makes them feel secure. People are crying out for those things, and so this is the perfect time for us to actually speak out that we do have a faith in someone higher, that our approval, that our victory, that our hope doesn't come from the world, it comes from God. And so this is exactly the time for you to say to your friends, you know what, I'm part of a youth ministry. Do you want to come hang out with us on Zoom on Friday night? And then they might start connecting with people and getting that faith community, so that by the time that all of this stuff is over, they've already got a youth family that they can come to, and they might start learning about Jesus. Even just those little awkward, beautifully awkward conversations of like, oh, so, you know, do you believe in God? I believe in God. What do you think? There's a quote that I heard from a conference a few years back that says, a moment of discomfort for you could mean somebody else's eternal comfort. Are we going to be willing to lean into that uncomfortable obedience to God, which could lead somebody else into eternal comfort, knowing Jesus, knowing that they are saved, knowing that they have a home, that they are a child of God? Let's lean into that discomfort. We are called to stand out, and we are called to speak up. And I reckon this time is such an opportunity to stand out and to speak up for Jesus and to advance the kingdom. So I'm so excited for this series. We are going to be just launching into talking about, you know, why your testimony is important, why your experience of how God has changed your life is so important and so significant, and how you can use that in your everyday life. Talking about going public, going live with our faith, being light bearers to our world. And so just before we wrap up, I want to ask you, before you go back to your leaders on Zoom, I want you to ask yourself and ask God, have a moment of prayer and say, God, how do you want me to be a light bearer this week? What is one thing? Ask God to highlight one thing in your life where you can be obedient this week. God, how can I show that I'm a Christian? How can I show that I love you? Maybe it's, like I said, a little thing like changing your bio or posting something, or maybe it's, you know, being extra kind to that person in your class who is so annoying or is so weird or you struggle with. What is one thing that God is saying, you know what, I want you to be obedient in this little thing to show that you know me, to show that you love me, to show that you are a Christian, and to set yourself apart. What is that one thing? Have a think, have a prayer before you go back to your Zoom leaders. Awesome. Guys, this has been the heat for this week. Let's go out and be light bearers. Let's go out and go public with our faith, go live with our faith. I hope that this has encouraged you. I trust that it has. I trust that it's gotten you thinking. And I encourage you to lean into this, to pray about this, to read passages, reread these passages in the Bible that I've talked about and reflect on them and pray over them and ask God, how can I be a light bearer? How can I go public? How can I go live with my faith this week? And how can you grow me as we're doing this series? So I trust that this has encouraged you. Have the best time with your leaders. So good to see your faces on Zoom. You guys are the best. As I said last week, we are all praying for you guys. Genuinely, we are praying for you. We love you guys. You're awesome. Have fun with your leaders. Peace.